Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well. And peace and blessings to the elect out there that's pushing this word in all truth and sincerity. I'm going to call this video Black Lives Don't Matter. And I'm just going to bring out the definition of black, definition of white, go into Bacon's Rebellion, the history on where those terms came from, and bring out the truth of who the so-called black people really are. All right. So starting off with the definitions of black. This is according to Edom Online. All right, because and Edom Online is the etymology of words. All right. So, you can't just look at the Google definition or it's unwise to get a deeper understanding of what words mean. You have to go to see where words originated from, right? So as you can see, I typed in the word black to Edom Online, and I wanted to highlight the part of, because you will see that it's used for dark-skinned people, but and I'll further explain. But I wanted to highlight this part, meaning fierce, terrible, wicked, is from late 14th century. Latin Niger, or it says figurative senses often come from the notion of without light. All right, and light is symbolic for like knowledge. So without light, without understanding, or without knowledge, moral or spiritual, right? So morally or spiritually, they're without light. Black is, the Latin word is Niger, where you get the N word from, had many of the same figurative senses: gloomy, unlucky, bad, wicked, malicious. Tended to reflect the notion of shrouded in darkness, overcast. All right. So there's, and then this term white. It says bright, radiant, clear, fair. White, to shine, light. To shine, light. Let's see. Surname originally with the reference to fair hair or complexion. It is one of the oldest in English, being well established before the conquest, meaning morally pure, was in Old English. Association with royalist cause is late 18th century slang sense of honorable, fair, gracious, friendly, favorable, the racial sense of those races. All right, so black and white were basically terms that so-called white people came up with to characterize themselves as pure and to label as dark-skinned individuals as wicked. And that's why white supremacy attested from 1868 American English. White supremacy and Negro subordination. Now let's see where these terms originated from. And it originated loosely around the time of Bacon's Rebellion, which was like 1600s. It says, let's see, I'll read the last sentence. By the 1700s, the laws and customs of Virginia had begun to distinguish black people from white people, making it impossible for most Virginians of African descent to do what Johnson and Key had done. They said, why did Virginia lawmakers make these changes? Many historians point to an event known as Bacon's Rebellion in 1676 as a turning point. Now, this wasn't the official thing, because it happened over time, but this was a turning point of black, or so-called black indentured servants and white indentured servants uh, making a uh, differentiating them. Nathaniel Bacon was a wealthy white property owner and relative of Virginia's governor, William Berkeley. But Bacon and Berkeley did not like each other. They disagreed over issues pertaining to how the colony should be governed, including the colony's policy towards Native Americans. Bacon wanted the colony to retaliate for raids by Native Americans on frontier settlements and to remove all Native Americans from the colony so landowners like himself could expand their property. So Bacon wanted more property. He wanted to go and attack Native Americans to get that property. Berkeley feared that doing so would unite all of the nearby tribes in a costly and destructive war against the colony. So Berkeley said no, because all those Native American tribes are going to come together and fuck us up. It says, in defiance, the governor, Bacon, organized his own militia consisting of white and black indentured servants and enslaved black people, who joined in exchange for freedom and attacked nearby tribes. So Bacon was like, fuck it, I'm just going to get these poor whites and poor blacks together and go and fight these Native Americans. A power struggle ensued with Bacon and his militia on one side, and Berkeley, the Virginian House of Burgesses, and the rest of the colony's elite on the other side. So it was Bacon and his militia, which consisted of, the indentured servants and slaves, against Berkeley and the higher up elite. It says months of conflict followed, including armed skirmishes between militias. In September of 1676, Bacon's militia captured Jamestown and burned it to the ground. Although Bacon died, so after they successfully took over Jamestown and burned it to the ground, it says, although Bacon died of fever a month later and the rebellion fell apart. So a month later after that happened, it fell apart. Virginia's wealthy planters were shaken by the fact that a rebel militia that united white and black servants and slaves had destroyed a colonial capital, because Jamestown was like the shit, is a huge capital. It says legal scholar Michael Alexander writes, the events in Jamestown were alarming to the planter elite, who were deeply fearful of the multiracial alliance of indentured servants and slaves. Word of Bacon's rebellions spread far and wide, and several more uprisings of a similar type followed. So they're scared that, more indentured servants and slaves would unite, that rebellion would spread across different colonies. So I'm going to skip down to here. After Bacon's rebellion, Virginia's lawmakers began to make legal distinctions between white and black inhabitants by permanently enslaving Virginians of African descent and giving poor white indentured servants and farmers some new rights and status. All right, so that's where you get your white privilege and your discrimination from today. All right, is from this. The reason why they did this was to divide those people up. All right, that's why you have plantation, dark skin working in the field, and you have light skin working in the house, and then you have poor whites having their own land and a little bit more rights. All right, it was all an attempt to divide us. All right. Now let's get into so Black lives do not matter. All right, because one, it means everything wicked. All right, and two, it's still dividing people. All right. If you're calling yourself black and referring to white people as white, then you're not going anywhere. That's why you have to look into the past to know where you're going. All right, and your past is that you're an Israelite. All right, according to Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. So if you're wondering why you're being discriminated against, or yada yada yada. It's because of this. Deuteronomy 28:15 says, "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee." All right, and then it lists all these curses that are upon so-called blacks, Native Americans, and uh, so-called Latinos. All right, and all the other Israelites who have been scattered amongst so-called white people, so-called Chinese people, so-called Japanese people, so-called uh, Arabians, so-called East Indians, so on and so forth. All right, if you and your family through your father's lineage suffer all these curses, then you are an Israelite. All right, and the reason why you know people are getting shot down in the street, your people can't get ahead in life. The reason why you always have problems in life is because the Israelites did not follow these commandments. All right, let's read a few. Let's see. Yeah, the Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. All right, and thy carcasses shall be meat unto all fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. Let's see. And thou shalt grope at noonday as a blind grope in the darkness. Thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. Thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. I wanted to see thou shalt be smitten by thine enemies, or before thine enemies. Let's see. Yeah, I'll read 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenedest not unto the voice of thy Lord thy power, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. All right, so the Most High put these curses on us as a sign and for a wonder. So if you wonder why all these shitty things are happening to you, it's for a sign that you're an Israelite, all right? Because once you wake up to the fact that you're an Israelite and you repent and you turn to the Lord, that's when the first part of this contract of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, is going to come into play. Because the first part is talking about all the blessings that will come upon you, all right? You should read that for yourself. Yeah, verse 48. It says, "Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee." That sounds a lot like slavery, whether it be you're a Native American slave, you're a so-called black slave, if you were a slave in Cuba, Puerto Rico, South America, if you were a so-called indentured servant from Ireland, whatever, man. If you're enslaved to these people, to your enemies, then then your ass is part of these curses, man. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. Yeah, man, I don't want to, because you can make a lesson just on these curses, because there's so many. But I'll read verse 64. it says, "And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people." All right, that's also part of the curse, is that so-called uh, blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, who are the real Israelites, have been scattered amongst all people. All right, so you're not gonna have all Israelites looking black. All right, I mean it should be evident when brothers like myself are making videos about this. But I haven't been called an Edomite in a while, but I know from the title that I'm giving this, and a bunch of emotions flared up because of what's going on nowadays. I'm sure I'll be called white privileged, Edomite, this, yada yada yada. But hey, whatever. This thing isn't meant for everybody. It says, "From the one end of the earth even unto the other, and thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone." All right. So it is prophesied that we were going to be scattered, that we'd serve other gods, such as Jesus, God, Allah, Buddha, Ishtar. I don't know any of those East Indian gods, so on and so forth, giving into other philosophies, being agnostic or atheist or whatever. All right, it was prophesied that we'd stop calling on His true name, which is the Most High's true name is Yahweh, and His Son is Yahushua. All right, but also it's prophesied that we'd come back to Him. Let's see. Judah and Israel persecuted together. Yeah. This is Jeremiah 50 and 33. "Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go." All right. So saying Black Lives Matter is one, you shouldn't go to the oppressors for help. That's just the stupidest thing you can do. But two, it's also dividing. All right. And you're calling yourself black, which I already mentioned, calling yourself wicked. So, when the innocent roughly paraphrase. Yeah, Job 4 and 7. "Remember, I pray thee, whoever perished being innocent, where were the righteous cut off?" All right. So George Floyd, whoever perished being innocent. All right. And that goes for the prophets too, man. The prophets, although they lived righteous lives, like Job, that was written by Job. Job was an upright man, and he was he was heavily afflicted. And the Most High told him to gird up his loins. He lost everything. He was privileged, lost everything. I'm talking about women, like he had everything. He had the women, he had the land, he had the resources, lost everything, became sick, lost friends, and the Most High told him to gird up his loins. So I'm telling all these, I mean, to be honest, like my personal opinion, I speak as a man, but if you're caught up in that Black Lives Matter movement, you're pretty much through, all right? What else? Oh yeah, let's see. I think it's Second Ezra, like the 9th chapter. Yeah. I might need the whole chapter though. Let's see. let's see. I'll start at. I really should start at the top. 2 Ezra 9:1. He answered me then and said, Measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that is the very same time wherein the Highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there shall be earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, which is happening right now, and it's been happening for the longest time. All right, earthquakes in everywhere. All right, uproars in the people, and it's not just people are kind of waking up to it now because it's happening in America, but you have to remember this has been happening. All right, you got the yellow vest protest that was happening in Europe. All right, you had a bunch of shit popping off down in Venezuela and other parts of South America. You've had drug wars going on between the Mexican border and American border for the longest time. And also, not even to mention in Syria, all right? That's been going on for the longest time, ever since the American boots were set down over there in the Middle East. It says, Then shalt thou well understand. I already read that. Verse 5, For like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. I'm going to skip down to verse 10, For such as in their life have received benefits and have not known me, and they that have loathed my law, while they had yet liberty, and when as yet place of repentance was open unto them, understood not, but despised it. All right, because the Israelites have been preaching for the longest time. So we had the answers. We told you all this stuff was going to happen, that there's going to be uproars of the people, that the microchip was coming, that famine and pestilence is coming. And, this is still the beginning, all right? It's going to get worse. And the doors of repentance are still open unto them, but understood not, but despised it. So you're still going to have people that aren't going to understand, all right, what Israel is all about, what Yahweh Bashem Yahushua is all about, all right? And because they despised it, it says the same must know it after death by pain. So all these people that are protesting or rioting or whatever, doesn't matter which side, if they're an Israelite and they're up in the midst of it, the same must know it after death by pain. Therefore be thou not curious how the ungodly shall be punished and when, but inquire how the righteous shall be saved, whose the world is and for whom the world is created. All right, because that's also something that we've been talking about. All right, the only thing that you have to do is preach the word, pray, fast, preach, study. All right. I'll keep going in this. Yeah, it says, Then answered I and said, verse 15, I have said before, now do you speak, and will speak it also hereafter, that there be many more of them which perish than of them which shall be saved. So that's also why, hey, your life doesn't matter. Because if you understand prophecy, there's going to be a shit ton of people that's going to die. And then a very small few, very, very small few that's going to be saved. How small and how great? Like as a wave is greater than a drop. If you ever, yeah, look. You see this? Boop. That's a drop. get another scripture. Zechariah 13:8 says, "And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, It is my people, and they shall say, The Lord is my power. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is my power, is my God." Alright? So, in conclusion, there's going to be more Israelites that are going to die, right? Meaning, their lives do not matter right now, right? Only the elect matters right now. That's why we're out here preaching this word every week, all right, making videos constantly in the scriptures, because we're only concerned about the elect. We're not trying to save all of our people. We're not trying to gather up land and resources. Let's get that in 2 Peter's where it says, seeing then, yeah. Because another thing that you have to understand is nuclear destruction is part of prophecy. So this is 2 Peter's 3:11. "Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness?" Alright, so everything that you see is going to be dissolved. Let me start up a little bit. 2 Peter's 3 and about, I don't know, 8 or so. Yeah, 10. It says, "But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, and in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up." Alright, and that's talking about nuclear destruction. Alright, it says, "Even the elements shall melt away with fervent heat." Look up how a nuclear bomb works. It's called nuclear fission, or there's another one that's called nuclear fusion. Alright, and it manipulates the elements. Like the very, rudimentary blocks of physical matter will melt away with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness? Alright? Looking for and hasting unto the coming of the day of the Most High. Like I read in 2 Ezra, the 9th chapter. Measure thou the time diligently in itself. That's what we've been doing. We've been sitting on that watchtower, looking for prophecies to unfold. Alright, giving our people warning. And part of the signs is what's going on now. So what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness? Alright, looking for and hasting unto the coming of the day of the Most High, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt away with fervent heat. Alright? Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for a new heavens and a new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness. Alright? And that's what we're looking for, because we're excited when we see riots happen, because we know it's part of prophecy. We get excited when the chip, when more information about the RFID microchip, which is the mark of the beast, comes out. We get excited when we see martial law troops coming into our city, because we know that's part of prophecy too. Alright? We get excited when we see our own people get destroyed, because that's, part of prophecy too. 2/3 of our people have to be destroyed, like I just read. 2 Ezra 15. And 10, behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I'll not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt. So, we're going to be delivered from this. It says, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and I will destroy all the land thereof. And America is the modern day Egypt. Right? Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plagues and punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it. They that till the ground shall mourn, and their seed shall fail through the blasting and hail, and with a fearful constellation. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And the modern day sword is, weapons. That's just another way to say weapons, alright? So guns, right? Whatever technology Esau has nowadays with his military might. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, looting. Alright? Like if you've ever played a battle royale game, alright? You and your squad go in and find whatever they can find and take out whatever opposition stands in the way. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, right? Meaning, fuck the law. We're going to do what we're going to do. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And you're seeing that on a small scale right now. It's going to get worse. It says, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. Alright, because soon enough, they're going to start locking down cities, military checkpoints. You won't be able to travel freely anymore. And they're already programming your minds and doing so because of this COVID-19 thing. Alright? They're saying, I know at one of my jobs, they say if you go out of town, you can't work for 2 weeks. So they're kind of getting people used to the idea of not being able to travel. For because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. You know what's beautiful? This month is so-called Pride Month, and it's being put on hold. Hey, kaholan wa yahabashino shai. Fuck June being Pride Month. Fuck Pride Month, man. Don't you know that sodomy is like the number one abomination that the Most High hates? Matter of fact, let me get that. It's funny how the shortest books of the Bible are like most heavy, like straightforward. Obadiah, Jude 1 and 7, even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner. Right, if you don't know what the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah are, those two cities were in the book of Genesis, and they practice sodomy, orgies, abominable fornications. Like it says, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, meaning like bestiality, homosexuality, orgies, all that type of shit. It says, are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire, because that's what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. The Most High rained down spiritual fire from heaven onto those cities, and only saved Lot and his 2 daughters out of it, and turned Lot's wife into a pillar of salt because she looked back at that city. And her looking back was her really showing that, she was with that city. And that's, and all those fornications and going after strange flesh, that's pushed here in America, right? I wanted to get something else in 2nd Ezra. It's the 16th chapter. Let's see. Yeah. This is 2nd Ezra 16. I'm going to start at 18. It says, the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear. the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Now, like I said, this is the beginning of it. It says, behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. All right, the reason why this this place is getting hit with famine and plagues and tribulations and anguish is for scourges for amendment. All right, that's how the Most High, that's the Most High's belt. All right, to whip his Israelites and to correct them. All right. It says, but for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor always be mindful of the scourges. All right, so the Most High's, whooping that ass, but Jake is just going off and still being rebellious. Why? It says, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth. Wendy's 4 for $4 dollar menu on McDonald's dollar menu. You got all these special deals. Right, so on and so forth. The gas is still cheap, right? That they shall think themselves to be in a good case, right? And that's what's been going on in America, because everything else has been happening in other countries, right? But now it's starting to happen here, and they're kind of waking up. But it says, even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. Now, great confusion is this whole political warfare shit that you see happening on mainstream media and even social media, all right? Because every time that a story comes out, there's 5 different narratives to be thrown out like 3 days later. And you don't know what the fuck is going on. That's why you don't see Israelites marching for Black Lives Matter, all right? We stick to the doctrine. We say Israel's going to be saved. Only the elect are going to be saved. The rest can get fucked by the sword, by famine, by apparitions, you name it. All right? Plagues, COVID-19, Ebola, murder hornets, locusts, cicadas, Egyptian moths. Hey, the scriptures talk about wild beasts are going to be in this place. Leviathan, man. Chariots. Angels are coming back. Yahweh Shai is coming back to destroy. It says, and the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them. For the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. I'll end it there. Black lives don't matter. Alright. So with that, I'm going to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai Ba'Shem Rakakwadash. A double honors to the apostles and elders who I learned this truth from. And a shalom to all the elect out there that's, been pushing this word and is continuing to push this word in all truth and sincerity. Hey, I pray for you, brothers, that the Lord keeps you in the time of evil, and that we overcome the hour of temptation. And I can't wait to see, brothers on those chariots getting crowned by Yahweh Shai, all right, and taking back what's ours, all right. So, again, shalom.